absolutely huge demonstrations are happening all over the world, which you wouldn't know about if you were watching the U.S. mainstream media. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Johnathan. We are Change.org. A lot of very important news to get into today, especially with the new taxes, regulations, rules, proposals in a, quote, $1 trillion infrastructure deal that, of course, will have huge ramifications for the U.S. economy. And that's why, in this video, we're going to be doing a full interview with the CEO of Starr Mining to get his professional economic point of view about what is really happening in this business world right now. But before we do that, plus a lot more, the demonstrations that are happening are absolutely massive, and it's very telling that we're hearing so very little about them. Of course, the biggest protests are happening in France. Protesters were also pepper sprayed in order to deter this movement by the state, which hasn't really worked. In Italy, citizens have decided to burn their domestic passport permission slip by the government, which is soon going to be requiring it for all citizens to be able to move around peacefully a part of their lives. A huge sign of solidarity from people who have taken this procedure, who are also respecting the rights and sanctity of others to have dominion over their human bodies. All the while, in Australia, people are literally being arrested and hauled off for going for walks. Now, here in the United States, things are a little bit different, especially depending on what state you're in. Some states mandate masks, social distancing, and literally bureaucratic permission slips, domestic passports, security checkpoints of your papers to make sure you did everything the government wanted you to do in order to just have a life. All, of course, while the ruling establishment that has called for lockdowns, called for restrictions, called for mandates, what are they doing? Well, they're partying their butts off. Yep, as the ruling establishment and mainstream media keep talking about the super spreader events that they don't like or go for their agenda or don't represent their narrative, this is perfectly represented by the party that happened in Sturgis, South Dakota, compared to, of course, the hundreds of people who have gathered to worship at the altar the former president of the United States turning a year older. As huge tents were erected for maximum privacy at Barack Obama's multi-million-dollar, predominantly white neighborhood beachfront property for, of course, his birthday celebration. Very interesting to see a lot of climate change alarmists, usually by beachfront property. I guess that might be just a coincidence there. As, of course, all the latest celebritards gathered. People like Stephen Colbert, John Legend, private jet-loving John Kerry, and other notables like Whoopi Goldberg, and, of course, not surprisingly, Chrissy Teigen. The event, after facing wide-range criticism from individuals that had to conduct Zoom calls with their dying relatives and other unhappy peasants of the slave class, it was announced that this event was going to be scaled back, which many people are calling out looks like it was an absolute lie, and anything but intimate as it was promised to be. As, of course, all the establishment tools like Jay-Z, Beyonce, George Clooney, all, of course, got to party, hang free, do whatever they want without any mask mandates, without any social distancing, and, of course, without any domestic passport system implemented here. People who posted pictures of the event were forced to delete them, and this continues on with the trend that we've been calling out for a very long time of the super rich corporate banking billionaire establishment class being able to do whatever they want, travel wherever they choose to, and live by a different set of rules, while, of course, you, a part of the 99.9% slave class, are forced to do what you're told and shut up about it. Now, another interesting side note, a lot of these hypocritical, absolutely delusional overlords are also the same ones that are passing, quote, infrastructure bills, which have very little to do with infrastructure. All of this as, of course, the Senate filibuster was just breaking, and we are waiting for a major decision by the U.S. government on a very huge, pork-filled, wasteful spending, bureaucratic Becky-loving infrastructure bill. There's absolutely insane things in this bill, like a law that's going to require all new cars to come with unproven drunk driving detection technology, which will be mandatory in all new vehicles, a technology that hasn't been proven to work effectively, by the way. The 2,700-page bill also has other rules and regulations like banning the smoking of electronic cigarettes and vaping when it comes to being near anywhere near Amtrak. This also along with the, quote, $10 billion plan to create a civilian climate change corporation, $20 to, quote, advance racial equity and environmental justice, which probably means spreading more racist and discriminatory policies like the government has been, billions of dollars to, quote, also eliminate racial and gender inequities in STEM. I don't know how they're going to be doing that. This, along with other initiatives that, of course, would be a part of a plan of the government taking money away from other people and redistributing it horribly with horrible services, which they usually always provide. Look at the DMV as a perfect example of that. How will they pay for all of this? Well, they're going to raise your taxes. They're even proposing a, quote, zombie tax, which would haunt people if they would acquire a business and property from a dying relative. There's also major plans to go after cryptocurrencies, one of the few emerging, promising technologies that has uplifted more people than any other technology in recent history. There hasn't been anything close towards helping people and enriching them like cryptocurrencies, and that's why part of this infrastructure bill, they plan to, of course, suffocate it with more rules and regulations that would predominantly kick a lot of prominent American cryptocurrency businesses out of the United States, where the U.S. government would make it harder and virtually impossible to exist as an entity. Now, with, quote, more government handouts, benefits, while squashing growth and innovation in private markets, what do you think the results of this are going to be? Well, that's actually the norm of what's been happening. We're seeing the results of it with runaway government spending leading to U.S. inflation rising dramatically, and it looks like it will only continue to grow from here. To talk about that, plus a lot more, we have the CEO and chairman of Starr Mining, who's going to be giving us all the latest information about what's actually happening in the markets and specifically with precious metals. Now, it's important to know that this video was conducted on behalf of Starr Mining. We are working together. For me, this is a win-win for everyone. A win for me, a win for Starr Mining and his company, and of course, a win for you, getting honest, real information that, of course, is not coming from a mainstream media perspective. For full disclosure, I really like precious metals, and that's why I like doing these types of interviews. So without further ado, we're just going to jump right into it. Now, Johnathan, thank you so much for joining us, but before even getting into introductions, I don't think there ever has been a time where so much currency has been created, and they want to create more of it. How do you make sense of this madness? How do you make sense of what's going on right now?
Well, if I had an answer to that directly and I knew the answer, then I probably wouldn't be sitting here. But it is complete madness. Just when you think something's passing and, there's $1 billion or $1 trillion being passed into circulation, there's 3 more trillion behind it. This is unprecedented times for everybody. I've been I'm very bullish on precious metals and Bitcoin leading, even into pre-COVID days. So what I see COVID and the results and the effects and the carnage that we're all seeing now, it's just an extra layer of things on top of, what I thought was obvious before the pandemic hit. And what I mean by that is, I already thought there was, heavy debt in the U.S. system. I thought there was, way too much money supply coming on stream with stimulus and what it might have been. And COVID has just exponentially just tagged it to a point where I don't know what the government is actually going to do to stop this word called inflation. Inflation is not temporary. I believe that this inflation problem is going to be here for a number of years, and we better start paying attention to it. And good thing, what we did a few years ago pre-COVID, we were already paying attention to it. So it's scary, but there's ways to do things to protect yourself, and I hope everybody does the same.
Yeah, I remember last year when everything started to kick up, everyone was worried about the social and political ramifications. And I was like, hey, the economic ramifications, in my opinion, are going to be the major ones here. And I think we're just starting to see the larger ramifications of that unfold right now. But again, for the people who don't know you, Johnathan, how would you introduce yourself and what is Starr Peak?
Johnathan Moore. I'm chairman, director, founder of STRPF Mining Limited. We are a Canadian junior exploration company that has made a splash. When I say splash, I mean we've made a sizable discovery in the province of Quebec in Canada. Our focus is in the mining market. So it was actually a bit of a funny story when we started. In Quebec, that's most probably the main production in Canada. There's a belt there called the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, and it is prolific for the largest mining companies in the world and the historic production climate. I mean, the province is very pro mining. So for someone to form a mining company, this would be the best place or the best real estate to start. And we were mainly looking at a gold situation with an asset. There was a big discovery right next door to us, and we decided to go in and get into that same area. And we knew there was gold, but what we discovered was, in our mind, kind of the holy grail. We found something which includes gold, but there was some very, very rich base metals. When I say base metals, I'm talking about zinc, copper, lead, and of course silver and gold on the precious metal side. So it was a basket of all these beautiful minerals and metals, which are worth a lot of money today, and in my mind, going to be worth a lot of money in the future.
Well, commodities have been rallying, especially in 2020 and 2021, especially with a lot of those metals that you mentioned, copper, zinc. I always told people, if you really want to kind of see how the economy is doing, keep an eye on commodities. And a lot of people are saying that we're kind of in a super cycle. This is according to some analysis coming from Goldman Sachs, UBS. Do you think they're on point with their assessment? How do you see commodities in the long run with all the kind of other economic insanity that we have to deal with?
Yeah, so I believe, we're more or less, I think, in the second inning. If you put something into just bringing baseball into it, we're in the early stages here. Yes, we've seen a rally in the commodity prices. Zinc, for instance, 2000 at the start, about a year ago, we're trading about 2,900 a ton now. Copper prices through the roof. It's a supply demand issue on those fronts. I mean, the demand is big. It's only getting greater. And when I say that, I mean the infrastructure plan and the massive spending plan that the government is proposing, and I think it was a $3 trillion bill that they're trying to get passed. Well, that for commodities is a biggie, because in order to build roads and bridges and infrastructure, you're going to need these commodities. I think there's a lot of legs left in this rodeo. So anything in terms of base metals, I think you're definitely ground floor right now. Gold, silver, not as you don't consume gold and silver. They're more elements of stores of wealth. So the only thing really that goes with that is the price of gold generally dictates the speculative environment for all of these metals combined.
Now, The Hill had a very interesting article which says that inflation was named as one of the top economic concerns for voters. This, as of course Janet Yellen also said, that Biden's $4 trillion economic agenda is key to ensuring U.S. global dominance. I don't know how crazy amounts of runaway spending is going to help people, but we're seeing these policies passed. There's a chance that this, quote, infrastructure economic package, which doesn't really have to do a lot with infrastructure, is going to pass. How do you kind of see things kind of moving forward from here, not just in the commodities market, but in the larger financial market, with essentially the fountain drying up and politicians becoming more thirsty than ever, trying to spend with debts and deficits kind of not mattering to them at all?
Well, I mean, it looks pretty obvious. anytime you see this mass amount of money that we've seen put into the system already, and now what is being proposed to put into the system on top of it, the word inflation is there. It's there to stay. Now, it's frustrating because I have firmly believed and I felt that the Fed has been completely dismissing the idea of inflation, almost to a point where they have been padding their own agenda by pushing it aside. And we've only seen recently the Fed has started to acknowledge it. And, the frustrating part comes is that now they just suddenly start to make it appear. I mean, this is a massive, massive problem for the United States. We also should point out that the U.S. has created all this additional money flow with stimulus and free money out there, just a printing press. But it's also global. Every other country out there has done exactly the same thing. Every other country has printed their own currency. So gold isn't just a U.S. phenomenon. It's actually a global. So take into account every other country as well that has done exactly the same thing. And I think people kind of forget that.
Yeah, now being in the gold business, some people like Jerome Powell say that gold is going to be going up dramatically. He's very bullish on it. How do you see gold being reflected with all the other economic major moves that are happening? As you mentioned, not just in the United States, there's other countries like China also printing a lot of money. There's also China on the world stage trying to establish their hegemony with their trading routes all over the world. How do you see gold reflected in that, and what role do you see it playing in this larger kind of economic restructuring that we're seeing right now?
Well, I think just the fact that the Fed has been just, in my mind, blind to really the effect that their actions over the last 12 months to 18 months, and then now looking forward for the next 6 to 12 months, their blindness has just carved them into a spot which I think it's without question. I mean, I use this phrase, I think there's going to be a rip your face off rally in the metals market, gold probably leading the charge. We did have a breakout, about 8, 9, 10 months ago with going over 2,000 up to 2,200. I was surprised at in the last 6 months, it's been a very dormant trade on it. It's been in a downward little spin. We've had a bit of an uptick recently, but the indicators to buy gold have never been better right now than they ever have been. So driving forward, we have a stock market hitting all-time highs every day. That doesn't get me too excited. That gets me a little bit nervous personally. So I think for every investor or everyone in their portfolio out there, you have to really look at some component of something alternative, and alternative being, gold, Bitcoin, or whatever it might be. I think there's too much uncertainty. One thing is for certain, they're not going to stop printing money. So based on that, then I think you wouldn't be very smart if you didn't change course and start looking at this stuff, more seriously.
Yeah, seeing a lot of kind of mainstream media financial advisors say, yeah, definitely go put your money in the stock markets. It's definitely going to be safe there. It definitely raises a lot of concerns. And it's kind of perplexing to see, some echoes of worry. People obviously seeing inflation in real life. But I kind of wanted to ask you, because I know you're in the gold business, but some people are looking to diversify their dollars into real estate, into the stock market, into cryptocurrencies. How would you rank gold amongst investments, and how would you rank being in the gold business over all those other ones? And are there any other kind of investments that you value more than just precious metal?
My background is, I'm a Canadian. Grew up in Canada and in the brokerage business and the investment banking business, but now I live in the United States. So I've always had a passion and a very good relationship with the mining market. And we've also made a lot of money in the gold game and, mining stocks in general. So I'm a little bit biased because I really think that in these types of environments and cycles that the gold market when I say gold, by the way, I'm meaning gold, silver, copper. I'm meaning all of them. So let's just call it the mining market because they really do all go hand in hand. It's a very exciting and, in my mind, smart way to play these cycles. And really the trade is right now is, I mean, you have people in Amazon or Apple, and we're all competing for those dollars. And the time when gold starts moving is when people are selling their Amazons and Apples, and they're starting to buy Barracks and the Agnico Eagles of the world. Okay, that's going to be the shift. And it's I think we're very close. I think the tech trade is getting a little bit long in the tooth, or whatever trade you want to call it. But gold stock is my choice. I do not like trading in gold ETFs. I don't like trading in these weird, funky investments that these brokerage firms just package up and they sell like hotcakes. It's not my. I don't really like it. I stick to doing my own research. I look at companies that have funding. I look at companies that have discoveries, strong management, and that's the type of stuff that I like and I like to put money in.
Now, when it comes to your company and what you're doing, what makes you guys different? What makes you guys special compared to everyone else in the business? And what are these VMS deposits that I also heard a lot about?
So I think really the standout for us is you've just nailed it there. VMS, volcanogenic. Pardon me, it's a bit of a tongue twister there. Volcanogenic massive sulfide deposit. And these VMS deposits are very rich. And when I say rich, you generally get a long production life out of these mines because they're generally formed in clusters, and these clusters are very closely packed together. So in terms of mining it, it's everything seems to be gathered in one place, and it might be spread up and down over a big vertical depth. So it's very easy to get to, and you can produce for long lengths of time. Additionally, you have a multiple metal situation for production. So when I say that, I mean not only are you getting zinc out of it, copper, potentially lead, you're getting silver, you're getting gold. You're able to grab monetary value when you process this ore of all these different commodities. So that's huge profit for the mining company. And of course, it's seen by the investor. The investor takes obviously, he'll see the benefit. There's also, historically, I'll just say, I think there's 350 known VMS deposits in Canada, historically. There's about 800 globally. And so it's a bit of a rarer occurrence. Like, we haven't seen a very big VMS deposit or discovery, beg your pardon, in Canada made over the last decade. Starr Peak seems to have piqued the interest and the attention, and that's why we've got a lot of praise and a lot of attention when we made our maiden discovery, when we came out with our first successful drill hole. So historically, these VMS mines in Canada, 27% of all copper production comes from VMS. 49% of its total zinc production comes from VMS, and 40% of all its silver comes from VMS. You can see, being only 350 known deposits, I mean, that's some pretty big percentages of Canada's total production of those metals.
Can you tell us exactly where you guys are mining, and what is the strategy behind your kind of methodology that you guys are using as a company? And if you don't mind, again, can you tell us some of the also major significant discoveries that you guys had?
Yeah, so we're not mining. All right, we're right off the bat, we're in what they call exploration to development mode. We've found a very we found a discovery, and really what we do now is just drill and drill and drill and just drill this thing so it becomes as big as we possibly can make it. This is the way the mining market works. So you have a major company, for instance, say like a Glencore or a Hudbay, or somebody big in this kind of base metals game. They don't do any of their own exploration. So what they do is they rely on companies like us smaller companies to raise venture capital and go out and start drilling and hopefully get lucky enough where you can find it and make a discovery. And that's what we've done. And what we now do is once you make that discovery, you want to make this thing as big as possible so the economics look so good on it that the major just will come by and say, thank you very much, we'll buy you, and then obviously they'll be the ones that take you into production. That's generally how it works. That's our business model. We stick to what we're good at. If you ever hear or see someone like me who is very good at finding these deposits and developing them, if you ever hear me say that, oh, we're going to become one of the biggest zinc gold producers in Canada, then that would kind of scare me a little bit, because it's a whole different game. It's a different set of rules. It's a different game. And too many companies that are small, that make big discoveries, think they can do it. And of course, when they try to go into production, which is it's a big task, in my mind, only the majors are good at it. But when these little guys try to start doing it, it's I call it the kiss of death. Stick to what you're good at, and that's what we do. We found it. We're going to build it. We're going to drill out of it, and I think we'll be able to put a nice bow around this thing, and hopefully one day hand it off to a major. But answering more to your question, what sort of deposit, what sort of our numbers look like? Well, I referenced a company called Amex. Amex was a company that we joined the land on the eastern side, and we very quickly assembled a land package, and that wasn't enough for us. We then went a step further, and we acquired a past producing mine, which was one of the largest base metals producer in the province of Quebec throughout the 1900s. They produced about 10.1 million tons of zinc, copper, gold, and silver. Quite a very, very large mine. It was at one point. It stopped producing in the 1980s when base metals fell out. They basically cratered in the 1980s, and everything was shut down. Well, this mine was what attracted Amex to the area, because there's an old saying there: where there's smoke, there's fire. So the best chance to find a discovery is next to another discovery. So we followed suit after Amex's success, and we drilled. And like I said, instead of finding gold and just straight gold, we found this VMS, very, very similar to the Normatal mine, which is the one we picked up. I might add, we're only drilling 700 to 800 meters away from this past producing mine, and that's important to notice, because these VMS deposits are, like I said, are found in clusters. If you remember, I mentioned they're very they tend to there's a saying that these VMS deposits, they're never orphans. There's always brothers nearby, and that's a kind of a geology term that people say. And what we have discovered so far is, our maiden hole we hit just over 12 meters of 23.82% zinc. 39.58 grams per ton silver. I mean, some numbers which are absolutely staggeringly rich, obviously with copper grades and some gold in there as well. And this got us going. This got the start. This got the attention. And to date, since that hole came, we have hit massive sulfides on 96% of our drill holes. So we have a very high success rate. And that just, for us, that's one of the biggest wins that we could possibly have. It just shows the market and shows our geologists that this land is very, very, very rich.
Yeah, that definitely seems like more of a rational approach compared to a lot of other approaches that I've kind of seen out there. But Johnathan, if everything goes your way, what do you hope to gain and achieve in the next coming weeks and months with your company?
Well, we're fully funded. We do not have to go to the market for any financing. We have always moved the market and staggered our financings higher and higher and higher. We have very good institutional involvement now, which is the way these things, as you make a discovery, then you attract bigger players, and then you keep drilling, and then hopefully you just keep staggering and moving the prices, your share price higher. We've managed to amass just over 7 million Canadian into the treasury right now. We have 2 drill rigs currently in operation. There's a third on its way. We have a very low share number outstanding of 39 million shares. It really to be in the situation I'm in with having a discovery with all that money in the bank, which is a full treasury, and enough money in there to basically drill this thing for the next year. We're in incredibly good shape. And then, of course, looking at the overall market, we start getting upticks in gold and silver, and the sentiment in the mining market picks up, which is what we're anticipating. This could be a very good second half to the year. And historically, gold is generally a better investment historically in the second half of the year.
Now, Johnathan, thank you so much for so much ear-on-the-ground information, for your takes on what's happening and what's really happening inside of this larger precious metals business that we would have naturally heard if it wasn't for your information and you come in and joining us. So I really appreciate that. Anything else you want to share with our audience, and where can people find out more information about you and your company?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's always good to talk. I don't know if we should call it alternative type investment, but definitely things outside of the norm. Looking at gold and precious metals and Bitcoin. STRPF website, starpeakminingltd.com. Or we trade on the Toronto Stock Exchange under the ticker Tom Sam Edward, and on the US Sam Tom Robert Peter Frank. Lots of information out there. One of the good things that you see also with the company that's constantly drilling like us, with the drills never stopping, is the news flow is regular and it's fluent. So this is something where we'll be constantly putting news and results out to the market as we get them back from the lab, and they're just come out on a regular basis, and that's really exciting. That's the type of stuff that move markets and move share prices, and we're eager to just keep releasing these results as they come out from the lab, and look forward to just building up this asset. It's very exciting, and we're blessed to have it.
Yep, and the link to STRPF will, of course, be down in the description below. Johnathan, thank you so much for your perspective. Thank you so much for your honesty. Thanks for working with us. I enjoyed the conversation, and if you enjoyed the conversation, share this video with your friends and family members, because this is one of the few ways that these videos actually get out there to the general public. And they wouldn't. They absolutely wouldn't if it wasn't for you guys doing that. And this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.